Yo, what is up guys, it's your boy Shieldcoomer aka Sirigath, and in this video we're gonna be covering Neltharion's Lair 21. This was done in the second week of the season 2, Fortified, Entangling, Bolstering. This is gonna be our first look at the new Entangling. And here I'm looking at my gear because I just realized that when I switched specs and it put on back my old gear. So I had 4 set here actually, but I still did this with the old 4 set. So this is still season 1 4 set, unfortunately. Which is it really tilted me because I was looking forward to just trying out uh the new 4 set. It would have been pretty amazing to try it out in this dungeon, but unfortunately here we are. So, Neltharion's Lair has been an interesting dungeon so far. On the first tyrannical week, it was absolutely bonkers, and it was really, really difficult to beat. Well, 3 out of the 4 bosses, really. Maybe even 4, I would say. And then Blizzard implemented some quote-unquote fixes that I do believe have done like this dungeon a pretty good service, and now I feel like it's a very viable dungeon. To play. Very fun. First boss is probably the hardest one right now. In terms of like just overall strategy, it's really tight because at times there is like. So I'll explain when we get there, but it's pretty tricky. You gotta focus the ads and stuff. Um, and here obviously dodging the frontals and not standing in the goo as the mobs explode is a big part of like this first part. It should be pretty straightforward and easy. Um, at least I think so. And here we have like these rock dudes. They don't really do much, so just something small to optimize here. And this is the hardest jump in the game, by the way. Like getting up here is like super tricky. You can actually do it from the other side, like from the side that looks taller. You can just walk up instead of jumping, but it's yeah, I don't know. As Goblin, it was really scuffed. It was really annoying to do. Blizzard, please fix. I'm kidding. This is not Blizzard. This is Healer, clearly. But yeah. um. Basically, at this point, I asked Tank like if he's fine to leave him alone, and I think I'll jump down. I'm actually not sure if I will. But I recommend as a healer here, you can jump down and kind of like start RP before everybody's down to save some time. Because now we'll have to wait like half a minute. But if I jump down, I mean, realistically, you know, healers are the smallest DPS loss if we're not in a fight. So as long as you're confident your party can survive, it's worth it for you to jump down and start the RP a little bit earlier, I think. Obviously not too early, like you don't want to be waiting down here, but just starting it like a couple of seconds earlier helps. Anyway, so this boss, as I said, it's a pretty tricky boss. When he does this, you want to not move. So every time he casts this, you want to not move. On the first one, he will just do that without the actual shatter damage, but every following shatter will have this on the ground. So when he does cast shatter, don't move and just heal people. And what's very important is that during shatter, there's no ads alive, because if the ads are alive, you will take more damage from the shatter. So focusing ads is the highest prio. You as a healer, I mean, of course you can help and you should help, but realistically, with like, it's kind of a DPS mechanic, but it doesn't hurt to help. Like, I mean, our radiant, our penances with all the buffs to it hit pretty hard, right? With harsh discipline and all the other procs, you will be shooting some very strong penances. So I would definitely help. I would definitely help. And here you see we have this ad up during the shatter, so we'll take more damage. But I put the barrier down, so luckily we didn't explode. So that was good.
Razor shards.
And I mean, it is fortified weak, so that also helps, of course. And I would say since this is the first time we're seeing
Shatter.
Entangling, and we'll be seeing it many more times before, I do want to say like one good way we can deal with this is by simply taking Phantasm Talent. It is early on in the tree. It's pretty easy to grab. It's just 1 point, so definitely pick that up. The only time you don't have to play it is I would say like if you're playing in an organized group and you have a red paladin that's gonna take double freedom, which they should be taking in theory, but obviously if you're pugging or if your friend for some reason doesn't want to take it or something like that, if you want to be like totally independent, just by playing the baseline fade with Phantasm, you get 3 out of the root. Bale. Now, one unfortunate byproduct of that is the fact that you will lose fade as kind of like a defensive because you will be using it to get out of root. So sometimes where you might be wanting to save fade for certain situations, you might not have it. And here, these guys you can skip, you can play them. That's totally up to you. On Fortified, what's very important is to move
Avalanche.
when the avalanches come. Luckily, Blizzard fixed this, so now we can also see the hitbox as well and stuff. So that's pretty good. Just playing these guys, it's pretty chill,
Stone Gaze.
as you can see. And I mean, Stone Gaze is not very nice, especially
Avalanche.
into the avalanche. So I'm guessing I'm gonna get fluffed down. Oh, I actually survived somehow. That's interesting. I was convinced the avalanche is almost like one shot. Surprised I survived with that much HP.
Stone Gaze.
Might have been the talent. I don't know if I'm playing the talent here that keeps me alive.
Avalanche.
Like a cheat that. But yeah, I've played with my talents quite a bit. You can always go to my Riot page, which will be linked in description, and check out which talents I'm playing. I think even on Fortified weeks at the moment, the build with unfortunately Mindbender just isn't the play. It seems like it's in my experience, like in theory, it's great if you can
Avalanche.
completely just free cast your, like if you're able to fully free cast your Mind Blasts and your Shadow Word Deaths and just like get that
Avalanche.
Mindbender slashes going, then you can play Mindbender and you can do that AoE build. But in my experience, usually at least at this point in the expansion, there's just a little bit too much healing required and stuff. And for that build, the other build is a little bit better, and also its synergies is better with our new 4-set as well, because the new 4-set like is very dependent on the Shadow Word Pain, and playing the other build simply gives us a little bit more freedom in that sense, where we are able to spread our dots a little bit better rather than consuming them for extra damage. And you know, keeping up your dots on all targets actually now provides quite a big DPS. And in most of the keys I have done recently with the new 4-set, my top DPS will be Shadow Word Pain. Keep in mind, in this dungeon, I'm still playing old 4-set because of the equipment manager shenanigans that happened. So my bad. But in the next video, guys, you guys will get to see the new 4-set in action, and I'm looking forward to uploading that. Here, we want to make sure like the tank stays alive. This guy hits hard, and he puts a dot on the tank. You don't see it here on the frames because you know Grid still hasn't like properly up. No hate towards Grid, I love Grid, but they still haven't like they're a little bit slow to upload all these new debuffs and stuff. Sometimes they're slacking on that, so you know hopefully they'll get fixed soon.
Petrifying Totem. Piercing Shards.
And these guys are incredibly dangerous, by the way. Not only do they have these totems from which you want to move, but they also have like the again shatters, or rather avalanches, sorry,
Fracture.
from which you have to like very quickly move. I suggest saving a feather for that. So don't be. I sometimes get into a habit of mindlessly consuming my feathers. That's not a good idea, especially if you know you'll have to move out quickly from it. So it's good to save them. I also don't really. I'm kind of conflicted. Like, if you're confident you can perfectly execute your things, then here I should have painted sub tank. This is kind of trolling because tank has the dot here and he's getting hit by a very big
piercing shards.
very big dude, so it would be smart to paint up him. As you can see, he is kind of getting tracked here. That dot really hurts, but I mean it's a new dungeon. You know, we're all still learning and stuff. It's quite a bit of new tricks to
Avalanche.
learn, but I was able to keep him alive regardless, so that's good. And I did end up using paint up, although a little bit too late. I mean, I always say this about paint up. Paint up is something that you want to use proactively, not like after damage happens. So it is definitely an ability that you want to be using during the times where, like, before the healing is required, not after damage already happened. Obviously, same as any other damage reduction. I mean, of course, Pence Up is still useful on a tank, especially because like it can buy him time to like keep himself up and stuff. Like, so don't get me wrong, it's better to try and then don't just let the tank die. But
Avalanche.
normally, like, being a good disc priest just comes down to like predicting how much damage your group will take and then dealing with this. This is why, like, I would say disc is pretty difficult to play early in the season, but it gets better and better as the season goes on, where you're able to squeeze a little bit more damage
Petrifying
when your
totem.
group starts taking a little bit less damage
Avalanche.
because of the gear. It really helps. It's really valuable. That wasn't actually a smart chain pool, honestly, giving bolstering to this guy, but you know, it is what it is. So these pelters, they're really dangerous. So what they do is like they'll basically go on somebody and they'll just be casting these discs, and you can get unlucky and get multiple discs in a row. It is just very important to CC chain these pelters, or if you don't have a CC chain, then you need to be using like some very big cooldowns as a healer to keep everybody up. Sorry, sorry for yawning. Sleepyhead lately. Um, but Drag Shaper,
Thunder.
it's a pretty simple boss. Um,
Strike of the mountain.
pretty simple boss and yet so complicated because
Bellow of the deeps.
like what you need to do is, I mean, this boss got fixed, right? In week 1 it was basically impossible to get past his intermission unless you had some like insane composition
Strike
with
of the
like
mountain.
huge defensives and stuff. You really needed to make sure that you don't get hit by multiple of these falling rocks. But nowadays, this after the fix, this boss is actually quite easy.
Thunder.
Most important thing is to not die to the strike of the mountain. So I
Strike of
also
the
learned
mountain.
something new. Meanwhile, since I did this key, you don't have to move completely
Bellow
out of the
deeps.
hands. If you just do like a little sidestep inside the hands, you will just get out of them for free.
Stance
You
of
don't
the
even have to
mountain.
walk out completely. And then here, you know, when this happens, I would highly suggest tracking this. There apparently is a weak aura that does this for you, but I have not verified that it works yet. So you can look it up and stuff. Feel free to do that, of course. And see how I'm panicking here. Like, I'm putting barrier and everything, thinking now we're gonna take like 10 gajillion damage, and we actually don't take any damage because, like, I mean, this
Stance
does
of the
nothing
mountain.
now after the fix. So
Thunder.
it's a little bit of a boring boss now, but better that than just randomly being one
Strike
shot.
of the mountain.
I have like a 19 from the last week, that
Thunder.
from like the first week, that I wish I wasn't. I really want to like upload it and show you guys like a comparison to how the intermission looks like on Tyrannical week 1 compared to this. Like, it's night and heaven. Like,
Bellow of the deeps.
week 1, this boss was an absolute menace and a nightmare. Because I want to like justify, you know, me saying that it was hard. Because I know somebody will be like, "What is this guy saying? This boss is hard, bro. This boss is easy, man. I healed it with my eyes closed." It's like, okay, dude. Sure, sure you did. But yeah, it was awful in week 1. It really was. Anyway, let's move on. Pretty decent piece so far. We played pretty good. Here we have a Shaper, Pelter, and a Breaker. So again, we're gonna get this, and we're gonna get Avalanche. So it's very important to move. And see, here you can see me being late to move, and Mage dying again to the
Petrifying
Avalanche.
totem.
A little bit unfortunate for Mr. Mage. Mage is a friend, by the way. I mean, tried my best to keep him alive, but you know,
Avalanche.
not much you can do when somebody gets like it's the avalanche into I think disc that killed him. I don't think he gets one shot from the avalanche, but it's this is why these packs are dangerous. It's the discs really that get you. This breaker, I mean, he's just kind of like a meat shield. Just kill him, right?
Avalanche.
Obviously move from the avalanches. That's about it. Um, these gators or whatever they are, I don't know. For some reason, I call them gators. I don't know if they're crocodiles or not. Like they look like some rock, stone, and naga things. And here, I thought I walked out. By the way, like it looked like I walked out, didn't it? But I didn't notice that the vine is on me because I was like focusing on the damage and stuff. And this is exactly what I mean. Like this is why this AOE build is actually kind of irritating to play at times. It's like because you think you're about to deal like so much damage and stuff, and then somebody takes damage, and then you lose like 3 globals killing them, and then you have to like get back into the groove, like rotating your mind blast and shadow word deaths and stuff. And I mean, the build can be good. Don't get me wrong, but I just noticed that as you push hierarchies, the simpler build usually prevails. We kind of have a similar issue in the raid right now. This does where Holy is just so much easier to play in raid,
Worm
and it
claw.
does like
Viscid Bile.
same if not bigger output than this does. So it's like, why would you play this Holy? And I mean, if barrier is like an excuse, then I mean,
Empowered.
Holy arguably has a better spell than barrier, which is symbol of hope, which is on the same cooldown. So just press symbol of hope, everybody gets back their defensives. That's effectively a barrier, right?
Viscid Bile.
Pretty cool. And this
Petrifying Totem.
this puking frontal there is very dangerous, and I tried to get out of it, but then we got an avalanche at the same time. And then also something you gotta be wary here is because Blizzard for some reason thinks that healers having high aggro is a great idea.
Viscid Bile.
So usually what happens here is when these worms come out, if tank doesn't pick them up almost instantly, these guys are almost guaranteed to run towards you. You just have to be really careful. That's why we have Fade, but I'm a bit reluctant to use Fade at this point because of the Entangling. But should be told, guys, like Entangling isn't even that big of a deal most of the time. Most of the time you can just walk out, lol, forehead. Like you can literally just press W and like that. It's not even a real affix. It's just affix slot for like wasted for nothing. But yeah, these grubs, I mean, these grubs are pretty chill to deal with. All they need is 1 CC and then they just like stand there uselessly and don't do anything. So they're pretty cool. You can like always like fear them or something. Like they'll start their metamorphosis, and as long as metamorphosis gets interrupted once, you don't have to think about them anymore. Obviously, like have your fears ready and whatnot. Loving the music in this dungeon though. This pack is a bit tricky because of these lurkers. Once again, like once they burrow into the ground, it gets a little bit tricky to
Worm Call.
how do I put it? Like
Metamorphosis.
it's just hard to pick them up. As you can see here, if somebody stays back, they can like lead from the back and then they attack you, and you're just like looking at where they are as a tank. And it's hard to find. It just gets like complicated, but honestly, like as I said, like most of the trash in these dungeons is not dangerous. The worst part about this whole dungeon is those skelters, honestly, and there's those big guys. They leave that nasty dot on the tank that I think is gonna cause issues on the higher key level, or when it's like weak like this, where it's like bolstering and stuff. But other than that, I think. And the infamous worm, which was like so grossly overtuned at the start, but it's not just that it was overtuned. It was also that the people just didn't know. Let's face it, people didn't know how to play this fight properly. Like they didn't know that you need to like place this the poison to slow the votes, and they didn't know that you have to kill the ads before they reach the boss and all this stuff. And then like with the grip mechanic, people didn't know how to deal with it properly. It's just like, as it usually goes, you know, the start of the season where most of us were not simply not used to the fight, and that there was some like honestly kudos to this
Toxic
paladin
Rage.
for great utility. By the way, I gotta say this.
Rancid Moth.
Like his sacks were on point, his land hands and like off
Spike
kills
Tongue.
were on point, so he definitely helped quite a bit. But as you can see, like I mean, the healing check on this is still quite high. Um, it definitely, I mean, this is a fortified week, and I'm doing like 84k HPS over 1 minute, which is
Spike
pretty
Tongue.
high for this. You know, we don't really like this type
Toxic
of
Rage.
healing, right? I talked about this multiple times
Rancid
on
Moth.
the previous videos. I'll say it again.
Worm
Like
Speaker's
this
About.
bread and butter is kind of like the bursty healing periods with breaks in between, so we can like get our radiances back, so we can get our
Toxic Rage.
kind of covenant back, but not this like constant raw damage. You have to really be smart with how you spend your resources like this, because
Rancid Moth.
you don't want to like fall down into the point where you're just like spamming flash heals and stuff like that. You know, you always want to
Toxic
be kind of
Rage.
like DPSing for that like slow sustain, and then throwing like your radiances to fill in the gaps, and obviously
Spike
your
tongue.
big burst window to top everybody up, and then rinse and repeat. But when it's like constant raw damage, it just makes things a little bit more complicated. So I would definitely recommend like getting at least one class that can de-poison. Here, you know, spell poison, it helps. It's not mandatory, of course, but it does help.
Avalanche.
And here, I mean, this weak aura is definitely a lifesaver. This weak aura for Avalanche, by the way, is just like the basic N plus package that contains all the weak auras of the expansion. Not just of the expansion, but of the current season. Pardon. I would
Avalanche.
recommend getting it, and I would recommend like setting up things at a place where you see it properly. I know it's a lot of work, but the way I see it, especially if you plan to seriously push, or if you want to challenge yourself and become a better player, you know, setting up weak auras and UI is always a tedious work. Like, there's very few people that actually like to do it, but it does help you quite a bit in the long run. Think about it. Is it better to spend, like, even if it's one full day of setting everything up in a place where you want it to be, but to save yourself from many potential wipes in the future and stuff like that? As you can see here, I mean, this was a little bit of an embarrassing mistake from us. Like, the three of us just straight up died because we stacked and then didn't move on time, and that's just Avalanche for you. You know, it's
Avalanche.
pretty silly, but you really, really, really have to
Avalanche.
move on time, otherwise you do get clapped. It's incredibly... How do I explain it? Like, it looks easy to do, and it is easy to do if you're prepared, but you have to basically pre-run as a priest. Like, you have to, like, feather yourself, like, 1 second before it comes, and start basically running,
Avalanche.
so that as soon as it targets you, you're almost, like, halfway out, and then you just need a little bit more, and then you leave. And there, I mean, we just had a little bit of a whoopsie, and, you know, I'm not gonna force you guys to watch me run back to the team. It's boring, so then we decided to just CC the Spelter, Trapper, sorry, and play with the Breaker and the Trapper. It's... I mean, these jagged discs are genuinely, they hurt a lot. Fortified especially, and once they get bolstered, it gets even worse.
Bound.
We were good on time, so I think this was like a good decision in retrospective. It's actually surprising how sloppy this dungeon was overall, and how like we managed to still like time it. That just goes to show how, like, at least so far, I have not met a lot of like keys where timing was the case of like, oh, you don't have enough damage. It's so far it has mostly been like, oh, you just don't know how to get past this, so it was a lot of time. Or some wipes that like require you like too much walking back. Here, I mean, it was a little bit tight this time.
Ember Swipe. Found.
Pretty tight actually. But our damage was pretty good in terms of like tank damage and stuff, but as you can see, like My damage was pretty decent, I would say,
Ember's
like
Wipe.
30k, but it's not as high as I can go. Like right now with this other build that I'm doing, with the new 4 set, I'm doing about 40ish k. So definitely a pretty big
Ember's Wipe.
improvement that comes just like passively, and it also gets more healing, which is I think like a big part of it.
Ember Swipe.
This Scorpio actually like caused some issues.
Ember Swipe.
I'll be honest, I'm not even sure where all this damage is coming from. I think it's the guy from like on top of him that's throwing stuff at us. It's just like genuinely awful. I'll actually have to like look at the logs and stuff and just double check like who is doing that much damage with this pack, because it seems to genuinely be scary.
1.
And that's why in this like second attempt I decided to
Empower.
be like a little bit more focus heavy and then open it up with the open it up. See again like clutch sack from Balak. Just open up with the rapture. I should have cal potted there. There was no reason to hold cat pot. So you know, this is why I love making these videos. It's like I look back at my gameplay and I learn a lot from my own mistakes. And not only that, but I allow you guys to learn from my mistakes, which I think is pretty good. I like it. I think it's a good deal for everyone involved. And here, mage died again. Poor mage. Mages are so squishy nowadays. I feel like. I mean, you know, like I genuinely believe that mages are one of the like strongest classes in the game in terms of survivability in Shadowlands, but in Dragonflight somehow something switched in the sense that I don't know if it's values or nerf or just like how the game has evolved since then, but it does feel like mages nowadays need like so much health just to stay alive. And here's the boss that's problematic. So I'll explain how this boss works.
Crystal Crash.
When this guy spawns, he will spawn ads, and the ads basically deal damage when they move, same as boss. So the whole idea here is the tank keeps the boss in place, and when he spawns ads, one person will get fixated, they go behind a wall, and then the ad gets stunned, and then you kill it during the stun. And if you do this properly in an organized manner, the ad doesn't even have to move almost at all. The tank can spawn him like directly on the wall pretty much, and you get the kill for free. And also there's this hide mechanic, which you just hide behind the wall, and I mean when he does the magma wave, you can even DPS from there if your tank positions it properly. Even melee can DPS, which is really insane in my opinion. Like pretty chill boss fight. Pretty chill. I mean, I guess we'll see now in the Tyrannical Week, because at the moment that I'm uploading this, already Tyrannical Week.
Crystal cracked.
But yeah, see, that's how it's supposed to be done. That was a good job by Tank. Really good spawn from the guy, where he just stunned him straight up get-go. To get like damage for free basically into him. Pretty good. Obviously, you have this lava thing that deals damage as well, coming by the ad, right? So that's something to kind of like keep in mind. It is a source of damage, so you do have to keep on healing. And yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. I'm gonna say, you know, thank you for supporting the channel, guys. Thanks for watching these videos. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any feedback regarding the quality of the videos or audio or I am aware that my microphone has had some cackling lately, but I've been trying to fix it. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for support. Much love, and hope to see you in the next video, guys. Good luck in your keys. Let me know how you're liking the season so far, and take care. Bye-bye.